My sermon this morning may be hard for some of you to hear. It was certainly hard for me to write. But I persevered, and I urge you to do the same. Not to worry, I'm not going to pull a Herman Cain. I have nothing personal to confess this morning, except that sometimes I find it hard to be optimistic when the tide of goodness seems to be going out. Early on Thanksgiving morning, my wife, Holly Atkinson, and I flew to Portland, Oregon, to spend the holiday with Holly's mother and one of Holly's sisters and her family. It rained only half the time we were there, a surprise given Portland's penchant for rain. When the sun came out, Mount Hood appeared, and Portland looked its picturesque best. With more open space per capita than any other city in the nation, Portland consistently rates as one of the best places in the nation to live, work, and raise a family. Politically liberal, environmentally aware, socially responsible, and instinctively quirky, it seems there's almost nothing not to like about Portland. One of our outings took us to a lovely botanical garden along 82nd Avenue in the northeast part of the city. Serene and peaceful, half of the 65-acre garden sits atop a cliff overlooking Portland, a magnificent view. It turns out that the official name of the garden, which is owned by the Catholics, is the National Sanctuary of Our Sorrowful Mother. Here's the irony. Almost without anyone noticing it, Portland has become one of our nation's leading centers for the sex trafficking of adolescent girls. And 82nd Avenue, just down the street from the National Sanctuary of Our Sorrowful Mother, is the hub of the sex trade. Entire strip malls along 82nd Avenue are devoted to pornography and prostitution. Many of the prostitutes are underage girls who have been trafficked in from elsewhere in the Northwest. More than 100,000 children go missing in our nation each year, many of them young girls coerced into working as sex slaves. Some experts place the number of missing children closer to 300,000. Everyone agrees that sex trafficking is a booming business. Increasingly, these girls aren't the usual misfits, runaways, and addicts. They are middle-class girls from normal homes. They are our children. This could be my child. Mark me down as a furious father. Last year, Dan Rather reported on the trafficking of adolescent girls in Portland, or as he called it in the title of his documentary, Pornland, Oregon. Why Portland? The city values its reputation as open-minded and quirky, and cracking down on anything to do with sex might make Portland seem prudish, like Texas, perhaps. If only. Earlier this week, a report by an organization called Shared Hope assigned grades to all 50 states based on how effectively their laws and law enforcement agencies combat sex trafficking. Texas received the highest marks in the nation, earning a grade of B. Oregon, like New York, New Jersey, and a dozen other states, earned a D. More than half of the states received an F. Portland has no laws restricting the location of porn shops, strip clubs, or flophouse motels. One can build a strip club across the street from a middle school, and someone has. Portland has 50 detectives assigned to narcotics, but only 2 detectives assigned to vice. If you traffic in drugs and get caught, you'll serve serious time in prison. If you traffic in adolescent girls and get caught, which is unlikely, you'll get a much shorter sentence, if any. No wonder sex trafficking is the new growth industry for organized crime. Some weeks ago, I attended a ceremony at the Council on Foreign Relations where the Train Foundation awards their annual Civil Courage Prize. Michelle Bachelet, former president of Chile and now head of UN Women, gave the keynote address. She spoke about the burgeoning problem of sex slavery around the globe and the trafficking in girls and women. It's already a huge problem, she said, and it's getting worse. The reference to courage in the name of the Civil Courage Prize, by the way, isn't window dressing. Awardees must have demonstrated steadfast resistance to evil at great personal cost. The Russian journalist Anna Politkovskaya received the prize in 2005 for her reports on the atrocities of war in Chechnya, despite death threats and intimidation. The following year, she was shot and killed outside her apartment in Moscow. This year's winners have demonstrated similar courage. Triveni Archaya rescues and rehabilitates women and children from India, Nepal, and Bangladesh who have been kidnapped and sold into forced prostitution in India. Of the 3 million prostitutes in India, 40% are children. Working with local police, Triveni rescues upwards of 400 girls each year. Brothel owners, who lose $45,000 in annual revenue for each girl rescued, fight back. Triveni persists, despite frequent threats against her life. Lydia Ribeiro, a prominent investigative journalist from Mexico, has been kidnapped, raped, and tortured in the wake of her 2005 book titled The Demons of Eden, which revealed a large child pornography ring in Cancun and the United States. She named names, prominent politicians and business leaders, as well as crime bosses, and published their pictures. In the years since, she has traveled around the world to write about the $35 billion market for sex slaves, sometimes posing as a nun to talk with prostitutes, at other times posing as a prostitute to talk with American and European sex tourists who pay $3,000 for a virgin teenager. In my career, she says, I've survived rape, incarceration, and an assassination attempt for exercising my freedom to be an echoer of other women's voices. And here I am making a free choice that millions of our sisters cannot make. Until we walk the path together, she says, I'll keep writing. The song Bullet with Butterfly Wings is the lead single from an album titled Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness by the Smashing Pumpkins, an American alternative rock band. The song, which won a Grammy some years ago, begins, "The world is a vampire sent to drain. Secret destroyers hold you up to the flames. And what do I get for my pain? Betrayed desires and a piece of the game." The song ends with the repeated lament, "And I still believe that I cannot be saved. And I still believe that I cannot be saved. And I still believe that I cannot be saved." Especially for women and girls brutalized by violence, the world is a vampire. Their lives have been drained of love and hope and joy. Young girls in Cancun are ferreted into fancy hotels, where men arriving on cruise ships from Canada have arranged beforehand to abuse them for pleasure and perversion. Girls age 16 and younger walk 82nd Avenue every day and every night. If a girl refuses, her pimp beats her. If she flees, he tracks her down. Sometimes he kills her. The world is a vampire. The training wheels go on early. Studies show that on average, boys begin using pornography at age 11, on average. Video games are becoming increasingly more realistic graphically and more violent sexually. It's true that some people try to insist that internet porn and violent video games don't cause problems in real life, but studies reveal the opposite. Not only do porn and violent video games increase the risk of copycat behavior, they also make it harder for men to form healthy relationships with real women. It's no surprise that 1 out of every 3 real live women in this nation will suffer violence sometime in her life. What are we thinking? What are we doing? The world is a vampire. In the face of the evidence, it's easy to believe that we cannot be saved.